Hello everyone, welcome back. I trust you've had a good half term and you are ready to crack on with the second bit of your NEA now, the website production. I hope as well that this is not the first time that you'll be getting to grips with websites. You should be well on your way now to producing your website. So this will hopefully just be a bit of revision for you, and will continue to point you in the right direction. First thing to remind you about, and this is something that you should be having the forefront of your mind whenever you are adding to your website, is your audience. And as it says in the brief here, a socially conscious 16 to 25 middle to upmarket demographic. The way that you're going to get the best marks within this project is to keep the audience at the forefront of your mind. That means that everything that you do, every decision that you make has to be catered for your target audience. So please do remember this. Every single decision you make has to represent your audience in a particular way. Let's have a look at what you have to do as an absolute minimum. Original audio and visual content, a minimum of 2 images. This is for the website. At least 1 original image on each of the 2 pages, and different from those produced on the magazine. Appropriate conventions of website design, so that's original title and logo and menu bar. Text introducing the main features of the magazine, working links from the home page to the other page, and a range of appropriate media language used, which includes typography, images, fonts, backgrounds, etc. Just to clarify, you need to have 2 working links. So you need to have 1 home page and a linked page. Those are the only 2 pages that are going to be marked. You can have dummy pages as your websites, but only the first two pages will be marked, your home page and 1 other linked page. And I'll explain what that means in a second. Just a reminder about your publication, that it's going to be launched by Dennis. So the most appropriate thing to think about is what current affairs magazines are already distributed by Dennis, and the first one is The Week. So we really need to look at The Week's website in order to understand what the layout of a website should be and how it looks. Well, the first thing that's very clear is that there is a clear branding between the website and the magazine. We have the masthead here and the masthead on the magazine here. And there are call to arms both going to the magazine and also to the website. So there is this clear cross-platform appreciation within this website. The fact that it has a subscription, try 6 issues for free. These are all things you can steal, by the way. We shouldn't really be thinking of this as something that the Week has a unique hold on. This is something that you should be stealing as your ideas. So on the right-hand side, we have an information bar there. 10 things you'll need to know today. Again, you can take these ideas. And then we have a sequence of current affairs stories. The difficulty for you will be you are going to be wanting to talk, I imagine, about the coronavirus crisis, about the US election, but you will not be able to use stock images. You'll have to create your own images. So everything on your website must be original. It must be original photography. That's where it's going to be slightly more problematic for you, but there's nothing that can't be done. Keep on going down. This is not just a 2 media format. We've got a podcast down here, and also if you go all the way down, there's different ways of getting in touch and contacting the publication through Facebook and Twitter here. So that's one template to look at, or one star model to look at. Let's have another look at a magazine that is published by Dennis, and that's The Big Issue, which you should know pretty well. And again, you'll see the branding here is very clear, but also it's important to recognize that actually the layout is not dissimilar. There's quite a lot of white space here, and the set out here is slightly less copy, I would say, than that of The Week. And there's a clear social focus here for The Big Issue, as you know, the social enterprise of The Big Issue being to challenge homelessness, and that's quite clear just from the first few articles that are on this page. Again, you will need to decide which stories are going to appeal to your target audience, and make sure that everything that you do and all the stories will represent your target audience. One thing to mention here, you do have to have original audio or audio visual. Now that can be in the form of an interview, but it can just be audio if you wish. So if you want to do sort of a podcast type article, you can do that so long as you can embed it into your website. Just to mention the social bars here, it is okay to use these stock images of Facebook and Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. You can get those readily on Wix, but please do make sure that there is some sort of social element to your website which encourages people to go online and to contribute in an interactive way. The other thing I'll mention here is the menu bar. So here, this is the Big Issues homepage, and there's plenty of content on here, but you will need to choose which of the linked pages will be the one that you want to be marked. You can have all of these links here as dummy links, but only one of them should be working, and only one of them should have content on which will be marked, and that will be entirely up to you. Okay, so if we flick onto Wix, which is our website designer of choice, Wix is wonderful because it gives you a template to start off with. The problem is, though, there are so many templates that it can often be a little bit overwhelming about which one to choose. Again, you need to be thinking about where it is you are going to position your audience, and also flick back to your star models in order to try and understand what your magazine is trying to represent. So if you look at our style model here, a fair amount of white space, lots of individual pictures for individual stories. That doesn't look like any of these standard templates. So you need to think very carefully before you just go and click away and you like the photo that's in the background. That photo in the background is not going to be there anyway. So you need to choose a website, a template, which does represent the style models and the research that you've done. I went through a few, and I found this one, which sort of looks like a similar setup to that of the Big Issue, and a similar setup to that of the Week. And this is the one that I think will best represent my my current affairs magazine. So I can go ahead and change everything on here, and I think that's very important to mention now. Whatever you see in your template, everything has to change. The text has to change, the layout has to change, the actual stories has to change. If anything is left original from Wix, it will be very obvious. So this should just act as an advisory to you, but everything else should really change, because we don't want to be risking losing marks for non-original content if you leave something in from Wix. And if you need any help on using Wix, we'll be around to help you if you're in school, but if you're not, there are literally hundreds of videos created by Wix and created by people who use Wix, which will help you to create your website. The great thing about Wix is that it's incredibly user-friendly, but also it's incredibly customizable. And it's very easy to adapt and to make your website look very professional. The indicative comment here, this is the brief, and it explains what the examiners expect to see from your production. So an appropriate concept, so that's an appropriate title, location, situation for your website. Appropriate conventions of website design. A obvious brand identity is very important, that there is quite clearly a link between your website and your magazine, but specifically it's linked to the target audience. Images appropriate, of course, media language, which establishes a consistent house style. Appropriate anchoring of images, news and information appropriate to the set brief, so think very carefully about the stories, the current affair stories that you're going to use. And appropriate representations as well, so think about your mise en scène, your costume, your props, etc. Now this is what I'd like to focus on now in the top level, because this is where we are all aiming. And it goes back to my original point there. You must convey the attitudes and beliefs of your audience, your 16 to 25, middle to upmarket demographic. So everything that you do must convey the attitudes and belief of your audience. A clear summary of the key content which fully engages the audience. Remember, the majority of people only spend a couple of seconds on each website. So what is it that's going to grab your audience's attention from the very outset on your homepage? Using media language in terms of intertextuality, so you can reference wider media productions. I know in some of your magazines you've looked at Time, for example, and you've taken the Time magazine front cover and you've used intertextuality to try and replicate that. Try and do something similar within your websites. You also have to represent your individuals and your social groups appropriately, and to draw together your entire understanding of your whole course of study. Remember, this is a synoptic non-assessment examination, so you have to be thinking about representation, audience, industry and language all the way through this in order to achieve the highest marks. The final thing I'll show you is the examiner's commentary on the last assessed NEA, which was summer 2019. And I'll just highlight a few things for you. Some excellent examples were seen. Such examples made it evident that the candidates had considered real-world examples of websites and had applied this knowledge effectively. It's very important that you look at appropriate style models and then use those style models as your rubric. Just to mention here, it's always clear which 2 pages were to be assessed. Please do make it clear which 2 pages you'd like the examiner to look at. Usually the first linked page would be the one that they look at. And the very best sites transcended the templates from which they derive, including original backgrounds and layout elements which showed a degree of creativity. Top work ensured that traffic was driven between the website and although it's not a TV program, it's a magazine in this respect, with well-designed, consistent branding. So think of it as a virtuous cycle. If you're on the website, you're being driven to the magazine. If you're looking at your magazine, you should be driven to the website. Just to make it clear that the exam board says that you can use web design software or templates like Wix, but candidates must be responsible for the design of the website and all content. So that means everything that is on your website must be original. Please do not fall into a trap of using stock footage. Make sure everything that you have is your own work. So a couple of other things here. Weaker websites relied heavily on the templates provided in Wix without personalizing them. I mean, it's quite clear, don't do that. It says generally the linked pages tend to be less successful than the home pages, often lacking technical sophistication. Remember that this is worth the same amount as your magazine. It's 25 marks, so you have to put in the time and the effort to make sure that you can look at both of these pages, and they should be of a similar standard. A couple of other things here. Good examples of embedded audio-visual content consist of variations of behind-the-scenes footage, websites for music video, blah, 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 blah. Now think about it. You're doing a current affairs magazine, so which is going to be the most appropriate use of your audio-visual? Think about it, and then employ your research in order to put that into your website. Because this is current affairs, you need to do a little bit more than just putting a social media bar in order to get up to an 8, a 9 or a 10 for your combination of your elements. So for this reason and for that reason, you could have examples of tweets or Instagram posts, newsletter. Think about how you're going to make sure that there is a branding or a branded element to your production. So think about your product as one whole product as opposed to magazines and your website. You're driving people from your magazine to your website and from your website back to your magazines. Good luck with this. You've got until the 20th of November to complete this. We'll be around to help, but please crack on and give it your best shot.